יום הראשון לנובמבר 25. תכלת זום קצר, פשוט דברים שלדעתי צריכים לשמר.
The free in the home of the brave. We're not free or brave, period. We're not free. This is not a free country. The judge is wearing a black robe, so he is the referee. The judge is the referee. He doesn't care which side wins or loses because he's going to get paid anyway. All religions, all churches in the world operate under maritime law. This is why all churches are divided into denominations like 20s and 50s and 100s. Understanding words is what you really need to start doing. You need to start doing your homework and understanding words. If you put an S in front of words, it becomes swords. And that's what words are. They're cutting. They can cause you great trouble. Humans are word-controlled creatures. So we need to establish what words mean. Again, when we talk about law, there's a Roman maximum in law that says, for he that would be deceived, let him. Simply meaning, if you are so ignorant as to be deceived, then that's your business, that's your problem. So you need to do your homework and find out what words mean, especially in relation to law and government. Because there is a world of occultism that is operating today throughout the world, in which you use certain words, and when those words are used in a court, they don't mean the same thing at all. Understanding law and the words of law, there are two things that this planet has: water and earth, water and land. Consequently, there are two kinds of law, the law of the land and the law of water. You've heard the term law of the land, but in point of fact, that's precisely what this word means, law of the land, because it is the people who live on land. And that is opposed to something else called the law of the high seas, or the law of water. You need to understand the difference. The law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on the land. And so consequently, the law of the land is different in every country. You can do things in America you can't do in Russia. You can do things in Africa you can't do in England. So the law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on that particular land. However, there is a higher law that dominates the entire world. It's called the law of the water, or the law of the high seas. The law of water is referred to as the law of money. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you're from, or where you live. Money is money. And anytime you're doing banking or using money, you are now under the law of water, maritime admiralty. If you go back in history, in ancient history, where all of this began, back in the land of Canaan, and you probably have heard in the Bible, the land of Canaan. The Canaanites were Phoenician bloodline. And in the ancient Phoenician language, Cana meant merchant banker. The very word merchant comes from mer, M-E-R, for the sea, for water. As in mermaid, we have merchant. Merchant bankers. Let me give an example of the difference between the law of water and the law of the land. The law of water, as I said, is a law of banking, money, as opposed to the law of the custom of the people or the law of the land. The Statue of Liberty must be put in water. It could not be put on American land as such. It had to be put in the harbor because it's not the Statue of Freedom. It's a statue of liberty. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port on a ship. He gets liberty. He's not free. So America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're not free or brave, period. We're not free. This is not a free country. Now, let me give you an example of how this law of the water works. Why is it that you have to go to court? People are always concerned about going to court. You go to court because you play basketball and tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Why? So that's what it is. It's a racket. And make no mistake, they do not pick words by chance. These words are very serious. They do not use words and terms with no avail. These words are very important. When you go into a court, what's the idea of going to court? It's a game like basketball. The whole idea in a court is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. One team gets up and they throw the ball over to that team of lawyers. That team gets up and throws the ball back into their court. And consequently, it's a ball game. And the judge is wearing a black robe, so he is the referee. The judge is the referee. He doesn't care which side wins or loses because he's going to get paid anyway. So he couldn't care less. He's merely there as a referee, and that's why he wears a black robe. And that's another interesting subject we can get into later. But the judge is a referee between two teams. The judge, we are told, rules from the bench. The word bench in Latin is a bank. Therefore, the judge rules for the bank. Where do you find banks? You find banks on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the current sea. The juice. Consequently, your money is currency because it's the flow, the cash flow. And give you an example of how this works. When a ship pulls into a harbor, all ships are referred to as female. Airships, rocket ships, sailing ships are always female. Why? There's a very good reason. Maritime Admiralty banking law says all ships are female because they're carrying items. They're carrying items for money. And so consequently, they are under Maritime Admiralty law. Admiralty is where we get the word admiral, admiral of the example of how this works. When a ship pulls into harbor, it parks at the dock and it ties off at the dock. The captain has to provide for the port authorities a certificate of manifest because yesterday the ship was not here, but this morning the ship pulled in, so it has manifested. So consequently, all the products, the $800 million worth of TVs or Toyotas have manifested. So each one of those items coming off of that ship has come off of water. And each end they has come in a ship. And consequently, on a ship, all ships have a captain. The word captain comes from a Latin word capital, money. So the captain represents the money that's on board the ship. And as I said, the captain has to present to the port authorities a certificate of manifest for each and every item. How much does it weigh? What color is it? How many doors does it have, etc. And consequently, the captain presents a certificate of manifest. The ship is sitting in its berth. And wherever a ship sits when it docks is called its berth. She sits in her berth, berthing a ship. Consequently, all the items, as I said, coming off that ship represent money. They came in on water. They are Maritime Admiralty product. And this is true all over the world. Now, when you were born, your mother's water broke. And when your mother's water broke, you came out. And this is why you have to have a birth certificate, because you are a Maritime Admiralty product under international law. You are considered, your body is considered a Maritime Admiralty product. Your mother delivered you. This is why if you go to Sears and buy a refrigerator, they will ship it to you. They will deliver it. That's why you were in your delivery room. Your mother was delivering a product. Maritime Admiralty, you came down your mother's birth canal. And once you, and as you're taking one of the televisions or the cars off the ship and it falls down and breaks, that's all right. Sometimes they're stillborn, so consequently you've lost money on that one. Therefore, you have to have a death certificate. And it's always signed by the doc. The doc has to sign your birth certificate and your death certificate. All of these words and terms are maritime admiralty banking words. And therefore, if you understand lawyers and judges and courts and government are all under international maritime admiralty law. All religions, all churches in the world operate under maritime law. This is why all churches are divided into denominations, like 20s and 50s and 100s. Serious. This is why they're called denominations, because all churches are nothing more than the product of maritime admiralty banking. It's an extraordinary story of occult treason, high treason and crimes against the state. Make no mistake about it. There has never been a country on the face of the earth as far back into history as you can go. There has never existed a country in which the people rose up and demanded their right to be free. Never. The concept of human, spiritual, intellectual, and physical freedom is a totally concept that has never, ever existed on the earth. The only time that has ever come into existence was the founding of this country, where it was understood that we were sovereigns and we owned our bodies. And consequently, since 1868, we're now on the International Maritime Admiralty Law. Think about this. When cowboys in Indian movies, when the cowboys would ride into town, they get off the horse, they were wearing guns. How come they could walk into a bar carrying guns? And if two guys got in an argument, they could go out on the street and draw on each other in front of the sheriff's office, and the sheriff would do nothing. How come? How come that men could go out in the street and shoot each other in front of everyone and had nothing be done about it? The reason why is because before 1868, all Americans were considered sovereigns. And that's one of the nice things about being a sovereign, is you have the right to be yourself. And consequently, you need to understand that in one last point I'm going to make before I introduce your speaker, that in 1868, there was a corporation founded. Anyone can incorporate a company. Well, in 1868, there was a company incorporated. And in that particular company, the founders of that company called it, they referred to it as the United States Corporation. And they stipulated that anybody who would be a member of that corporation or work for that corporation would be called not an employee, but a citizen. So today, if you are asked, are you a citizen of the United States? What you think you're being asked is, are you lawfully in this country to do business? That's not lawfully what's being asked. They didn't ask if you're in America lawfully. They asked you a specific question. Are you of your own volition, out of your own mouth, testifying that you are a citizen of the United States? Because in that way, citizen of the United States means you are an employee of a foreign corporation operating on the international maritime law. So today, the president of the United States is the president of a privately owned company. The company is called United States. And the word president is always a word that is used in corporate law. Banks have presidents. All companies have presidents.
הבנתם? תורידו את המילה United States of America, שימו Israel, the state of Israel, אותו דבר. כל מי שמחזיק ומצהיר שהוא אזרח של מדינת ישראל, הוא בעצם כפוף והוא עבד לחברת עסקים שמתנהלים לפי חוקי האדמירליות. וכמו כן, זה מה שקורה בפועל כרגע, ולכן אין לנו שום זכויות. לעבדים, כפי שאתם יודעים, יש מאסטרים. בנוסף לזה, שימו לב, הוא אומר, כל תאגיד יש לו גם נשיא. לכן לא הבנו למה היינו צריכים נשיא. למה היינו צריכים נשיא כל השנים במדינה? משום שמעולם המדינה לא הייתה ריבונית. היא במסווה של ממשלה כאשר היא מתנהלת כתאגידית. והיא שיקרה, רימתה לאורך מקום המדינה, לאורך כל ההתנהלות, ואנחנו צריכים לקום ולשנות את המצב, רק אנחנו. אם אנחנו נמשיך ואנחנו יודעים את השקר ואת המרמה שנעשו, זה ילך ויחריף, כי עכשיו הם כבר עברו לשלב אחר משנת 23. אני הבאתי את המוכר מכל, שתמיד יש לו אמרות לגבי מילים, מאוד משמעותי, כל מילה שהם משדרים לנו. אני רואה שגם בפייסבוק יש כל יום הודעות, אם זה ערוץ 13 או ערוץ 12. המילים שם הם פשוט, אני אומרת שזה של גוף זר שמנהל את המדיה, כי זה לא שפה. זה לא השפה שלנו וזה מלא שקרים. זו דעתי, כל אחד יבדוק לעצמו.
So there's a corporation called United States, privately owned, and it has a president. President Bush is not the president of America. President Bush is the president of a privately owned company.
הבנת? הנשיא החמוד שלנו, המעופף, הוא לא נשיא של מדינת ישראל, הוא נשיא של חברה פרטית. קשה להבין, קשה לקבל, ואף אחד לא רוצה לקבל, כי הוא משרת בצבא, ובצבא הוא גם משרת עבור חברה פרטית, ואין צורך ואין שום כללים וחובות עבור אנשים חיים. וככל שתחברו את הנקודות ותבינו, שהם יכולים להכניס אתכם לבית משוגעים, לבתי סוהר, או לאן שהם רוצים, כי הם קובעים, הם חברות פרטיות, הם צריכים להרוויח. ומשאירים אותנו בכוונה שלא נדע, שלא נלמד. עובדה שאני חושבת אחורה, לא למדנו כלום בבית ספר. לא שהייתי תלמידה שישבתי ואהבתי לשבת ולדגור, אבל הזמן היחיד שבאמת ישבתי הרבה זה מאז שגיליתי את השקר, כמה שנים. אז כל מה שלא למדתי, אני יושבת ומנסה להבין לאורך השנים האחרונות.
Privately owned out of England. And you need to understand words and terms. Because I believe that there is a divine presence in the universe that men call God. And one day that divine presence is going to move on the earth and we're going to see freedom come back to this world. And when it does, you're going to need to understand words and terms and how they have been used to trick you.
And ownership of the signature. You add a copyright symbol after your signature. All about paperwork tonight. All right, so purpose of a byline. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you had these questions before. Why do we need a byline? And that's where you write BY : and then you autograph your name. Okay, so the use of a byline establishes your authorship of the text and ownership of the signature. You add a copyright symbol after your signature to further nail it down. And, you know, by John Mark Doe, of course, it's the John Mark Doe is in cursive, right? And that is your unique autograph. Okay, if you want to control your good name and not just give it away to every Tom, Dick, and Harry to be used for whatever purpose, counterfeiting is popular. Use a byline and claim the authorship of your own name. You can even go a step beyond and use an express copyright or letter C with a circle around it following your signature. And that's basically why we always use the copyright after our name. All right, so how to autograph using a byline. So by colon, and then your name and the copyright, adding TM. Now, trademark is actually if you're going to be using your name for business purposes. You don't need to trademark your name. And then you're going to add your red thumbprint. And so I have up here my byline, Tammy Ann Healy, a copyright, and I have my thumbprint over. Now you always want to put your thumbprint over the last letter of your last name and the copyright. And you always want to put all rights reserved without prejudice, only used when communicating directly with corporations. Okay, so when you are writing to your friend, right, and you're going to talk to them about plans that you have for the weekend or something to that regard, you know, and you sign your email as, you know, Tammy, you know, your friend Tammy. I'm not going to write Tammy Ann Healy with a copyright, you know, these are only for when you're dealing with corporations. Unless, of course, your friend is still a corporation. All right. All right, now let's get into the 1779 Declaration. Okay, this is the one-pager declaration. The purpose and benefit of this is based on the 1779 Naturalization Act, a simple requirement by which our forefathers identified themselves as Americans, not British, not French, not Dutch. This is your opportunity to declare yourself as an American. The 1779 package is the fastest way to land in America. It reverses all presumptions being held against you and blocks any further interference by the, quote, governmental service corporations, end quote, and their officers. We use the 1779 Naturalization Act, and we provide some necessary updates by which Americans, both those born within the physical borders of the states and those who have been naturalized as United States citizens, may establish and or re-verify their political status via recording their declarations with their state assemblies. Okay, and this is when you know, you use the recording secretaries to record your documents and upload it and make it a published document so that you are properly declared. Okay. So other important facts about the 1779 one-pager declaration. This is not the same as expatriating your various persons from federal jurisdiction and is not the same as going to a U.S. embassy and doing a wholesale repudiation of all citizenship. We retain our state national status in any event, always, which means that we remain attached to the United States. And by the way, the United States is the soil jurisdiction. It's the county jurisdiction, okay? And if we so choose, can also retain our state citizenship. All we are repudiating is any foreign British territorial or federal municipal citizenships being presumed and conferred upon us without our knowledge or consent. The United Nations and U.S. Secretary of State and the U.S. Secretary of Defense have to be notified of your repudiation of federal territorial and federal municipal citizenship, both, as well as your claim of American state citizenship. Now, I want to pause here just for a second because I want those who may be new hearing this for the first time, when you are born on one of the 50 states, you take your nationality from one of the state that you're born on. So I was born on Connecticut, so my nationality is a Connecticuter, okay? And I'm a state national, but because I'm working for my state government, my American state government, which is the New Jersey Assembly, I have declared myself to be a citizen for my state. So I'm an American state citizen. And the difference between a state national and a state citizen in the American jurisdiction is that you, as a citizen, you owe your allegiance to your government. As a national, you owe no allegiance to anybody. You don't work for any federal government. You don't work for your assembly. You are just a free, sovereign American. Okay? But as an elected officer working for the New Jersey Assembly, or eventually when you start working on your county assemblies and you are elected into those positions, you then serve as an elected officer, and therefore you are a citizen. Okay, Nelson, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, you said you were you're a Connecticut.
Yep.
But now you're in New Jersey. Did you switch your allegiance to New Jersey? And are you supposed to?
So it has nothing to do with your allegiance. It has to do with your nationality. No different. So I'll try to make this easier for you guys to understand. All of our what?
Follow question. So then we can move from state to state to state, but you stay a Connecticut and I stay a New Yorker.
Correct.
Okay.
That's just your nationality. So for
Okay.
instance, if somebody was born in Italy and came here to America when he was an infant, his nationality is still an Italian, right? Because that's where he was born.
Right.
But he's been living in America and has become an American, right? Like through this process. Or if
Yeah.
he's naturalized and then wants to correct his status to be an American, then he would have to, and we have somebody on the call tonight, and we were just discussing this before our recording. So she was naturalized on South Carolina. So she's a South Carolinian, but she has been living in New Jersey for quite a while now. And so she will be a part of the New Jersey Assembly when she corrects her status. So because she corrects her status in New Jersey or on New Jersey, that doesn't make her nationality a New Jerseyan. So your nationality comes from either the state you were born on or the state you were naturalized on, or if you have either of those, you can then, I think Malou did this. Malou had to do an affirmation where you get to choose the state in which you want your nationality on. Okay.
Okay.
And does that make sense?
Yeah, but now here's my confusion. If someone asks me, what am I now? I'm a New Jerseyan. Yes?
Yes,
No?
well, your nationality is a New Yorker, but you
Okay.
are a New Jerseyan because you are domiciled on New Jersey.
Here. If I move to another state, that becomes my new domicile, then I become that state. All right, thank you. I
Yeah.
yield.
Yes, and your nationality never changes though. Okay, so all of our states are separate nation states, just like Italy, France, England, Germany.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Are all the
Today,
same as New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Okay, so we are our own nation states, and wherever it was that you were born, you that's your nationality. But if you move to a different state and you are still if you're working for the New Jersey Assembly, you are a New Jerseyan. You're domiciled on that state, so you are a New Jerseyan. Okay, I hope that, and Manuel, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. So for me, I became naturalized in South Carolina because that's where I was stationed in the Army. So I was born in Colombia, in South America. I moved here when I was 7 in 99. I got my green card sometime in the early 2000s. And then after that, I was just a green card. I joined the military, and in my service with the military is where I got my citizenship. So am I able to claim my nationality in New Jersey though? I've never lived in South Carolina. Like I've never lived there. I literally just, took the oath while I was training on the base there.
On your naturalization paperwork, does it say South Carolina on it?
It does.
Yeah, so your nationality is a South Carolinian, but being domiciled on New Jersey, you adopt that and you're a New Jerseyan, but you're
So I have the status correct with you and the recording officers here in New Jersey, or do I have to do that in South Carolina?
No. So wherever you're domiciled is where you're going to correct your status. It doesn't matter what nationality you are.
Okay,
So
thank you.
if somebody lives in California, but they've lived now they're living in New Jersey, right? And they want to correct their status. We just need to know what their nationality is so that we can put it on their paperwork when we correct the status. Okay.
Gotcha. Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Thank you.
And that's a good question, by the way, because there are quite a lot of people that are on the LRO that's not in New Jersey. They're living in a different state. I think somebody's on here tonight. And so they make the mistake of signing up on the LRO as somebody that lives or they sign up on the LRO as a New Jerseyan because that's their nationality, but they're living on another state. So their status correction has to happen on the state in which they're living on. So it's a very common mistake. So which is why we do these kinds of presentations to try to help with that. All right, now how to autograph. This is the only document, by the way, that you are going to print your name. Okay, you do not autograph it with cursive. So right here in this lower part right here, it says print your name, do not use cursive. Okay, like in your autograph. And you're still going to put that thumbprint over the last letter of your last name and over the copyright symbol. Okay, and you do this with blue ink, by the way. Okay, and the reason why they say blue ink is because you're coming out of the sea, and then the red thumbprint is basically the land jurisdiction and your blood, right? So if you are married, okay, and you're going to put a nay, if you see this over here. So you're going to put your married name here, right? And then you're going to put your maiden name as nay. Okay. All right, moving on. Let's see this one. Okay, witness testimony. So the purpose is that you want to have two witnesses who have known you for 7 or more years. And it can be witnessed by a recording secretary or a notary public. Okay. In the case of women who have married and changed their names, you will need to add reference to the birth name. So Betty Jo Boop, nay, Mellencamp, right? Mellencamp is her maiden name. The reason you create and develop the paperwork in the first place is to use it as a superior evidence of who you are, a lawful person, and the capacity in which you are acting, peaceful American state civilian. The two witness testimonies are more recent and therefore superior evidence that the American state national is who he says he is, or who she says she is. Okay, and the other thing I want to say is that your witness has to be 21 years or older. Okay, so in our jurisdiction, you're not an adult until you're 21. All right. So other interesting facts, witnesses should be known for at least 7 years if possible. And when describing the relationship, it shouldn't just read mother or childhood friend. You know, you want to, put a more meaningful explanation. So family members can be witnesses. And if your mother, sibling, spouse, or friend will be filling out the form, a more meaningful explanation would be appreciated. It might say something like, Manuela is my lifelong friend of 40 years, or Phil is my wife. Sorry, Phil. Phil is my husband of 18 years, right? Something to that effect. And you're going to use, again, blue cursive. Must be 21 years of age. And while a public notary validates 18 and plus, so that's the difference, guys. If you're using a notary public and they don't know well enough about the age, you have to be the one that knows that the age that we require to be a witness is 21 years. And by the way, oh yeah, who's that? Go ahead.
Betsy.
Yeah.
As far as like a wife or something like that, if you're only married less than 7 years, is that a good way to describe it? Married 3 years, because they need to be 7. So you'd have to be known
Well,
each other.
if they know you for 7 years, you could say, I've known Nelson for 10 plus
7 years.
years.
Married 4.
Yes.
Okay, I yield.
All right. Now we're going to move on. So just so you guys know, I want to go back here. So the two witness testimonies and the 1779 declaration, and in our first step, we have the political status. That's actually part of our first step, but the declaration, the 1779 declaration, the two witness testimonies is what is the 3 papers, the documents that actually get you back to the land and soil. Everything moving forward is actually highly recommended that people do, because this is where the paperwork is going to work in your favor when it comes to the de facto. Okay. All right. So moving on here. Acknowledgement, acceptance, and deed of reconveyance or conveyance for immigrants. So if immigrants are just coming to this country, they're going to be conveying back, or they're going to be conveying to the land jurisdiction. But if you were born an American, unlawfully converted, you're actually reconveying back into the land. Okay. This document establishes that your trade name is being officially removed from the international jurisdiction of the sea and from foreign places like Puerto Rico, and returned to a permanent domicile on the land and soil of your birth state, not a state of states. So it's not going to say state of New Jersey, right? The actual land jurisdiction state of the Union, which is New Jersey state. This repatriates your good name to the land and soil jurisdiction. Your birth certificate places you at sea and your good name shanghaied. So that's why you need to reconvey it back to the states. It repatriates you back to your original political status and standing. And you autograph this document in red cursive for reconveyance, blue cursive for conveyance. And you'll do it first, middle, last with your copyright and your maiden name. If you're married, with a red thumbprint, and it should touch your autograph over the last letter. This one you don't put all rights reserved. Women are autographing with your legal name with maiden name in parentheses. Also, if a man has a name change, he can use nay with his born name. Okay, so I wanted to, just put a copy of what that looks like. Okay, it says, I, the living woman, Erin Eileen Jones, née Smith. So Smith was her maiden name. Being of age, of sound mind, and in good health, free of all duress or improper consideration, hereby acknowledge, accept, and reconvey my given lawful trade name, Erin Eileen Jones, née Smith, to the land and soil of Wisconsin or whatever state that you were born on. My state would be Connecticut, so I would put Connecticut. My native state, together with all derivative names, including Erin Eileen Jones, née Smith, Aaron Jones, Erin Eileen Jones, Aaron E. Jones, E. Jones, and in all capital letters going on and so forth. However way they stylize your name, because they use your name, you could see it on your bills, on your driver's license, all the different ways that they use your name. And all other variations, however styled, punctuated, spelled, ordered, or otherwise represented as pertaining to me and my estate, and hereby declare their permanent domicile on the land and soil of New Jersey. All prior powers of attorney with the exception of, and if you have a power of attorney, this is where you would put it. If not, you would just delete this portion, okay? And it says all other prior presumed or granted executorships, guardianships, and agency relationships are terminated and revoked effective with my natural birthday, July 7th, 1960, as I elect to be recognized as the sole living owner, executor, beneficiary, and agent of my name and estate since my 21st birthday on July 7th, 1981. I want to go over this with you guys so you understand, because I know a lot of people have questions about trusts and why trusts are created. Okay. Trusts are created, or at least the government created your trust. The first ever trust that they created for you is your infant decadent estate trust. Okay. And so a trust is created because they're actually declaring you're dead. And so a trust is assets that go into something because you're either dead or lost at sea. So this is why when you correct your status and you are on the land and soil, you don't want to put your assets in a trust. You want to put it in a will, right? If you want to leave, because as a state national, all your belongings belong to you. Nobody can take them from you. When they converted you into a U.S. citizen or a lowercase c citizen of the United States, which is a municipal citizen, they created you to be a corporation, okay? And they created you to be lost at sea, okay? Dead and lost at sea. So they took all your assets and put them into this trust, okay? Which is why you need legal representation. If you go to court, you need an attorney to represent you, because technically you're lost at sea or you're dead. Okay. When you claim yourself to be an American state national, you're claiming, hey, wait a second. I do not, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm a living, breathing woman or man, and I'm not dead. So basically you are claiming back all your assets, okay? And no attorney can take those assets away from you, okay? Now, if you want to leave your stuff to the next in line, like your family, because if God forbid you were to die in an accident and there is no will that you created for them, then all your stuff goes into a trust and, and it gets claimed again into a state trust. So it's really important for people to create wills, and you can record that on the land jurisdiction. We have a spot for that, by the way, on the LRO. Okay, Nelson, can your question wait for the end, or do you need to ask it now?
I guess it can wait.
Okay, all right. So you're gonna use your name given at birth. So whatever name is on your birth certificate or on your naturalization papers, that's the name you're gonna use. And it's the first state is where you were born, and second state is where you are domiciled. Okay, so I know on my paperwork, I had to put Connecticut as the state I was born on. That's where I get my nationality. And then I had to put the state, New Jersey, where I'm domiciled. Okay, it establishes the fact that you are a living soul of sound mind and body from birth state soil to the present soil you live on. Use all names and variations. You are reconveying all names in all capital letters from any presumption of being lost at sea and firmly establishing them on the soil. All right. Now the second paragraph, this is where you revoke all powers of attorney that you may have knowingly or unknowingly granted. So when your mother signed your birth certificate, she signed over your rights to the government. And so anytime you get a ticket in the mail, which is why you get solicited by attorneys to represent you. Okay. And so when you correct your status, you're taking back your power of attorney. You don't need an attorney to represent you because you're not dead and you're not lost at sea. Okay. And you're also, as well as executorships, guardianships, and agency relationships when dealing with the corporations. So there is nobody that can supersede, no CPS, no social services. None of these organizations or agencies have any powers of attorney over you unless you grant it to them. And this is where you would want to add that. So if you are, let's just say, for instance, you correct your status, but you become, not of sound mind. Something happens, you had an accident, you can't speak or something to that effect, and you want to sign power of attorney over to your son or daughter or your sister, brother, or whoever, this is where you would add that in. Okay, or you could make an amendment to this as well if you needed to do that. It also releases you from any presumption that you have authorized to the corporations, any power of attorney, executorships. Oh, I already read that, sorry. Acknowledgement, acceptance, and deed of reconveyance or conveyance, power of attorney extension. And this is an extension. It's for anyone who wants to use it if you have someone who you have power of attorney of in tandem with power of attorney with extension. Okay, so if you have power of attorney over somebody, you would have to do an extension to this. All right, let's move on to certificate of assumed names, notice of transfer of reserved name. All right, this document takes control of every name. It also puts you in the secure priority creditor status. So there's no need to do a UCC1 or UCC2. And those of us who aren't familiar with these processes, because these were older processes when they were trying to nail down the right paperwork. Basically, this document, the certificate of assumed name, replaces that. You can go straight to an agricultural lien. Right. So purpose and benefit in the first paragraph. This document establishes your interest in and ownership of the various assumed names and assets attached to them, which you have used in the course of your lifetime. And as you repatriate them also to the land and soil jurisdiction, you reflag them as American assets, all owed the constitutional protections and guarantees. It is typically 3 to 4 pages long. Note, this document can be used for businesses as well, and this is what we do use when people convert their business over to the land and soil. It provides you with the avenue of support of common law rights within the corporation, invokes the common law rights and remedies from the session laws of the state of Washington or state of New Jersey. this paragraph is written in parse syntax. All right, purpose and benefit for the second paragraph. This establishes the fact that the Sustakee v. Trust in your names was created without your consent or knowledge, no disclosure, and invokes the remedy in Article 4 of the Sustakee v. Act of 1666, which is as one, having been found to be alive. That's your remedy, by the way. Invoking the remedy sets the record straight that you are a living soul standing on the soil and that you and your estate are owed all benefit, control, and interest in the grantor trust estate and set free and clear of all liens, debts, titles held under color of law, tithes, fees, and all other encumbrances established by the corporations and corporations. So I want to point out here for new people, the reason why in this it says corporations with uppercase and lowercase, and then we have all uppercase. This one to the left is a British territorial foreign corporation, and this to the right over here is a municipal foreign jurisdiction corporation. Okay, and each of these corporations have used your good name in all different stylized formats to create these different trusts where they stole your assets. All right. Purpose and benefit, second paragraph continued. So physical post office address, you put your in care of, you put C-O and you put your street address. And then your zip code, your home, owner information, true and real trade name, grantee, private signatory, beneficiary, holder, transferee, first name John, middle name Mark, last name Doe, style bicameral and surname, post office address, the physical address, and then follow that as such. Go ahead, Nelson.
Just a quick question. Do you have to write that owner information on the envelope?
No,
True and real trade name?
this is going over the second paragraph in the certificate of assumed names.
Okay, but you're just gonna write the physical address, care of, blah, blah, blah. But
Right.
the owner information doesn't
And-
get there.
Yeah, and when we're gonna do another education piece, and that's gonna go over postal offices and postal services.
Right,
Because I know that this is confusing to a lot too, so, but we're not gonna
Okay.
spend too much time on that right now.
I yield.
Thank you, Nelson. All right, going on to the third paragraph in the certificate of assumed names, the purpose and benefit are you are seizing control of your straw man names, the Sustakee v. Estate Trust, and reinstating it to your true trade name as the administrator. The purpose and benefit of the 4th through 6th paragraph of this document is it establishes the living you standing on the soil as the correct, true, and real trade name and address of your estate. The purpose and benefit of the actually, that was supposed to say, I think, 7th and 8th. It removes any obstacle of confusion between your assumed name and your true name. All right. Oh no, I guess, yeah, this is the 8th and 9th paragraph. Conveys or transfers the estate and all assets to the true owner and administrator, that is the living you, with a guarantee of prepayment and exemption from all taxes, tithes, and fees. And this is why these documents, the 928 documents, is important, especially if you are sending in your revocation of election to pay taxes, okay? Purpose and benefit of the 10th paragraph on this document, okay? It restates to the corporations not to violate you or your assets or property past, present, or future, or you will seek remedy by putting a lien against their oath of office. their malpractice insurance in any real or movable property. This remedy cannot be discharged by a bankruptcy or a probate claim. So this is the benefit of doing a lien process. And I want to make that very clear, is that when we lien a man or one of these corporations, this is our remedy. This is like us suing them, because this is like malpractice against their oath of office. Okay. All right. Now, the purpose and benefit of the 11th paragraph protects you, the living person standing on the soil of the United States of America, from any shenanigans from the foreign corporations. All right. Okay, so we are going to review, there's 3 acts of expatriation and oath of allegiance. The first one is the Sustakivi Trust, okay? And that is stylized in all capital letters with your whole name, John Mark Doe, okay? So the purpose and benefit, it captures and reflags your vessels. You take down the foreign flags on each vessel and replace all with American flags. That's our civil peacetime flag. You are not expatriating yourself. You are expatriating these foreign entities, them, from their foreign status. Expatriate the vessels from governmental control to your control. First set for each name change with legal proof. No middle name, 1 expatriate, 1 middle name, and 3rd expatriate, 2 middle names equals 7 expatriations. So basically what they're saying is that if you are married and you have 2 names, right, your birth name and now your legal name, right, your married name, you'll be doing 6 expatriations, 3 for your maiden name and 3 for your married name. And same thing with if you changed your name or if you got married a couple of different times, right? Or if you have 2 middle names, it gets tricky even with that. I had corrected somebody's status who only had a first and last name, and that was super easy to do. Anyway, this document is seizing control of the Sustakivi estate name. It firmly declares that you are not a citizen of the United States and renounces all presumed citizenship claims or other political status claims that the corporations, USA Inc., United States Inc., the United States of America Inc., and et cetera. And now the corporation that Trump is operating under is the United States of America LLC, okay, have made in your name. It repatriates your name to the land of your birth and the current address of where you live. You are clearly telling the corporations that you are not a citizen of anything. Your true status is that of a living person born on the soil of your birth state and now living in your current state. Your true nationality is an American state national. You travel and conduct trade as an American state vessel for all international trade and commerce, reflagging your vessel. All right, now this one is for your public transmitting utility, and it's in the style of John M. with your middle initial and then your last name Doe, okay? The transmitting utility name is firmly declared that you are not a citizen of the United States and renounces all presumed citizenship claims or other political status claims that the corporations, the USA Inc., United States Inc., the United States of America Inc., and now the United States of America LLC have made in your name. It repatriates your name to the land of your birth and the current address of where you live. You are clearly telling the corporations that you are not a citizen of anything. Your true status is that of a living person born on the soil of your birth state and now living in your current state. Oh, I think I already, yeah, so this is the same thing. Your travel and conduct trade name as an American state vessel for all international trade and commerce. Okay, going on to the third name or style, and this is a ward of the state. and it's stylized with just your first and your last name, John Doe. All right, this document is seizing control of the ward of the state name. It firmly declares that you are not a citizen of the United States and renounces all presumed citizenship claims or other political status claims that the corporations have made in your name. It repatriates your name to the land of your birth where you were born. You are clearly telling the corporations that you are not a citizen of anything. Your true status is that of a living man or woman born on the soil of your birth state and now living in your current state. Your true nationality is an American state national. You travel and conduct trade as an American state vessel for all international trade and commerce. All right, moving on.
אני רציתי שתראו ותלמדו להבין, כי אני בטוחה שהרבה מסתכלים על התצהירים, מסתכלים, מתבוננים ולא מבינים את המשמעות. אז לכן החלטתי שיש פה וידאו שהיא מסבירה, נכון שהיא הולכת מהר, אבל צריך לקחת כל מסמך, לעבור, ללמוד ולהבין אותו. כי מאוד חשוב לדעת עבור מה אנחנו נוכל להשתמש ולתת את זה, ולאלה אנשים אנחנו צריכים לעדכן אותם בעניין הזה. זהו להיום בינתיים, אז בהצלחה לכולם ויום טוב.
To the foreign sovereign